I'm Lynne Lyman. I'm the State Director for the Drug Policy Alliance here in California, and we are one of the co-chairs for Proposition 64, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. Proposition 64 is a comprehensive marijuana legalization initiative, so it legalizes for adults the use, possession, transport, and sharing of cannabis. That's adults 21 and over. It sets up a regulatory system for the commercial market, and it is a huge sentencing reform, massively reducing criminal justice penalties across the board for marijuana violations. We've had a liberalization of our marijuana laws in California over the past 20 years. Despite that, we've had nearly 500,000 marijuana arrests in California over the past 10 years. Prop 64 reduces or eliminates nearly all marijuana violations in the books. The only two remaining felonies are selling to minors or home butane extraction. Those are both current felonies, and they'll both remain felonies under Prop 64. Most importantly, children will never go to jail again in California for marijuana activity. 17 and under, which is a minor in California, can only receive a non-fine infraction for any marijuana violation. And at age 18, their record is sealed. Anybody in California who has a California-based marijuana conviction on their record will be eligible to have that record reduced or expunged. And anybody currently incarcerated for a marijuana violation that has been changed by this law will be eligible for a reduction in their sentence and a potential release. Prop 64, we have a provision in there that says you cannot deny somebody a license based on their prior drug convictions. You know, at Drug Policy Alliance, we share the concern of, making sure our mom and pop, our small farmers, our longtime, cultivators don't get pushed out of this business. So there's a couple of things we did in Prop 64 to protect the rights of the small growers. One of them is, and the biggest one is probably the 5-year ban on any large licenses. Fees is another way that we set up a framework for the small business. So rather than having fees per license type, we have fees per size. So if you open a small retail business, your fee will be much smaller than if you open a large retail business. The same with cultivation, manufacturing, etc. Prop 64 has 19 license types, everything from large outdoor cultivator to indoor cultivator to small cultivator, manufacturer, distributor, retail, etc. We also created a new special license type that was not in MRSA called the micro license, and this is for the smallest businesses, so 10,000 square feet or smaller, who can fully vertically integrate under one license. And so they can grow at home, they can manufacture, they can sell. The idea is that the micro license would operate a lot like a microbrewery or a winery, where you can come, you can see the plants growing, you can touch them and smell them, you can get a tour. If your locality has opted in for on-site consumption, then you might be able to use on-site, consume on-site. On-site consumption, the way that we think about, is much like a cigar lounge. So a place where cannabis consumers can hang out and use their cannabis. Now, under Prop 64, cannabis cannot be sold in any place where alcohol or tobacco are sold. So you're not going to see this happening in a bar. It would be a cannabis-specific lounge. And so we want to make sure that we do have places for people who might not have a private home, either available to them or close enough or whatever it may be, to be able to use cannabis as safe, responsible adults the way we like to use anything else. The other thing that Prop 64 allows for is what we call appellates of origin. So the way we have, Napa Valley wine, we can have Humboldt County marijuana, and it will be verified. So the third-party inspector will give you that appellates of origin to say that, you are getting cannabis from, the Humboldt Hills. For the state tax revenue, it goes into the new marijuana fund. First, the cost of regulation comes off the top. And then there's a couple of funds that come off the top. So there's some money that goes to research, researching the impact of legalization. There's $2 million a year that goes to medical marijuana research at the Institute of Medicinal Marijuana in San Diego. Some $3 million a year in the first 5 years that goes to California Highway Patrol to begin to research how to determine how folks are driving under the influence of alcohol and other drugs. And then the $50 million Community Reinvestment Fund. This is money that no matter how much the revenue is each year, this $50 million comes off the top and goes to those communities that have been the most targeted by the war on drugs. So high incarceration, high arrest communities will get this money to do the things that they want to do in their community. So whether it's job training, microfinancing for new businesses, after-school programs, drug treatment for adults, legal services, each community will be able to decide that money will be given out on a competitive kind of grant basis. So once you have all those pieces off the top, you have the pot is split three ways. 60% of the remaining funds goes to the Department of Healthcare Services for youth drug treatment, prevention, and education. There's 20% that goes to environmental restoration, remediation, and protection. So one of the unfortunate consequences of having an unregulated market for the last 20 years is the damage to the environment. There's been watershed diversion, corruption, so a lot of environmental remediation needs to take place. And then the remaining 20% goes back to those localities that have not banned. So if a city chooses to ban the commercial use of marijuana, then they will not get that last 20%. You know, this is going to be a challenging election. First and foremost, it is a huge ballot in California. We're afraid people aren't going to get all the way down to 64. We also know that amongst likely voters who tend to be older, marijuana legalization isn't an issue they're passionate about. Many of them are opposed or don't care. We need our young people to get out and vote, talk to your family and friends, come out as a cannabis user. Every talk I do, I talk about myself as a daily cannabis user. Cannabis is a part of our life in a healthy, safe, and loving way. And so just kind of spreading the cannabis culture love and getting people to vote. All the information can be found at legalizeca2016.com.